As I pulled my sleek brand, new Rolls-Royce Ghost into the driveway of my new home, an unsettling feeling hit me. I was being watched. The engine was still humming when I caught sight of her in my rear-view mirror. A middle-aged woman with a sharp blonde bob and oversized designer sunglasses, charging across the cul-de-sac like she was on a crusade. Her pastel cardigan fluttered wildly as she strode toward my car, her face twisted in what I can only call anticipatory fury. "Excuse me," she bellowed, her voice piercing through my closed windows. "Who are you, and what are you doing with that car?" I stepped out calmly, keys in hand. "Hi, I'm Jason, the new owner of 1542, just moving in today." She sized me up with blatant disbelief, her gaze lingering on my casual jeans and button-up shirt, apparently not the attire of a Rolls-Royce owner in her eyes. "That's absurd," she snapped, crossing her arms. "The Miller's sold to a young professional. You look like you're barely out of college." "I'm 21, I said with a polite smile, "and I closed on the Miller house last month. All the paperwork's finalized." Her eyes narrowed as she circled my car like a vulture. "No one your age can afford a car like that unless it's stolen. I'm calling the police. We don't tolerate thieves in Oakwood Estates." Before I could respond, she was on her phone, dramatically dialing 911, staring me down as if daring me to bolt. I leaned against my car, unfazed. This wasn't the warm welcome I'd hoped for, but as the 21-year-old president of a tech startup recently sold for 8 figures, I was used to being underestimated. "Yes, officer," she was saying, her voice loud enough to echo through the cul-de-sac. "There's a suspicious young man with a Rolls-Royce that can't possibly be his. I suspect grand theft auto at 1542 Oakwood Drive. Hurry before he gets away." I sighed, texting my assistant about the delay. This move-in day was going to drag. The self-appointed neighborhood enforcer hung up with a triumphant smirk. "The police are coming. I suggest you stay put." "I'm not going anywhere," I replied. "This is my house and that's my car. I don't believe I got your name." She puffed up with pride. "I'm Karen Wellington, president of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association for 6 straight terms. And you don't look like you belong in our community." Of course, her name was Karen. The universe clearly had a sense of irony. "Well, Karen," I said, pulling out my wallet, "I'm the legal owner of this house and car. Want to see the deed? I've got digital copies." She dismissed my ID with a wave. "I've seen fake IDs before. The HOA has a strict vetting process, and I don't recall approving someone like you." The way she said "like you" carried a weight that went beyond my age, her eyes lingering on my brown skin with the same suspicion she'd given my car. I took a deep breath. Her prejudice was her issue, not mine. "The HOA doesn't approve buyers, Karen," I explained calmly. "That's not how real estate works. The Millers accepted my offer, my financing cleared, and the sale closed. I'm a resident now, whether you like it or not." Her face turned a startling shade of crimson. "We'll see about that, and that car no 21-year-old has that kind of money unless they're up to something illegal. Did you hack a bank account? Is this a money laundering scheme?" She began circling my car again, snapping photos from every angle, including the license plate. Neighbors started emerging from their homes, drawn to the spectacle. Karen fed off their attention, raising her voice for the crowd. "I've seen this before. A young person shows up with luxury goods they couldn't possibly afford. Next thing you know, drugs are being dealt in our peaceful neighborhood. Not on my watch." I opened my glove box and pulled out my registration and insurance papers. "Karen, I'm a tech entrepreneur. My company was acquired last year. This car was legally purchased from Beverly Hills Auto Gallery 3 months ago. Here's the proof." She glanced at the documents but refused to touch them. "Anyone can fake papers these days. My nephew's in cybersecurity. He warns me about sophisticated criminals like you." Just then, 2 police cruisers rolled into the cul-de-sac. Karen's expression shifted from hostile to smug as she straightened her cardigan and adopted a theatrical air of distress. "Officers, thank goodness." she exclaimed, rushing toward them. "I caught this young man with a stolen luxury car. He claims he lives here, but I'm the HOA president and I know every legitimate resident." The officers, one older with a salt and pepper mustache, the other younger and clean shaven, approached cautiously. The older one spoke first. "Sir, we got a call about a possible stolen vehicle. Can I see your license and registration?" "Of course," I said, handing over the documents. "I'm Jason Chen. I just closed on this house and was moving in when this woman accused me of stealing my own car." The younger officer reviewed my paperwork, while the older one kept watch. Karen kept interrupting, insisting, "He's using fake ID. I've been HOA president for 6 years and personally review all homeowner applications. He'd never qualify for our community, and that car's worth $300,000. He's barely old enough to drink." The older officer raised an eyebrow at her outburst but stayed professional. "Ma'am, please step back and let us handle this." The younger officer, after checking my information, whispered to his partner, "Everything's clean. Vehicles registered to him, no flags, insurance is current, and the house deed was recorded last month." Karen, clearly overhearing, grew desperate. "That's impossible. Check again. He must have hacked the system. People like him don't own cars like that." The emphasis on "people like him" didn't go unnoticed. The older officer's tone cooled. "Ma'am, what do you mean by people like him?" Karen stumbled but recovered quickly. "Young people, no 21-year-old has a Rolls-Royce unless they're doing something illegal. I'm just protecting our neighborhood's safety and property values." At that moment, a silver-haired neighbor approached, holding up his phone. "Officers, I hate to interrupt, but you should see this. My doorbell camera caught this whole exchange. I was watching the live feed from my office when I heard the commotion." Karen's confidence wavered. "I'd be happy to send you the footage," the neighbor continued, "including where Mrs. Wellington used some unfortunate language before you arrived." "What language, sir?" the younger officer asked. The neighbor glanced at me uncomfortably. "She said, and I quote, 'We don't need his kind lowering our property values, and she'd make sure he's removed from this neighborhood one way or another.' There were other terms I'd rather not repeat." Karen's face paled. "That's out of context. I was just concerned about community standards." The older officer turned to me. "Sir, your documents are in order. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. You're free to continue moving in." He handed back my license and registration, then addressed Karen sternly. "Mrs. Wellington, can we speak privately?" As they stepped aside, Karen's gestures grew frantic. The younger officer stayed behind, apologizing again for the disruption. "No worries, officer," I said. "You are just doing your job." More neighbors gathered, many now casting disapproving glances at Karen. After a few minutes, the older officer pulled out his notepad and Karen's voice spiked. "You can't be serious. I was doing my civic duty. I'm the HOA president." Then, to everyone's shock, the officer calmly recited her Miranda rights. "Karen Wellington, you're under arrest for filing a false police report and verbal harassment with discriminatory intent, both misdemeanors in this state. This is outrageous." Karen shrieked as she was guided to the cruiser. "I was protecting our community. This is reverse discrimination. I'll have your badge." Her protests grew louder as reality sank in. "I was just being cautious. You can't arrest someone for that." The neighbors watched in stunned silence as Karen, the neighborhood's petty tyrant for years, was placed in the back of the cruiser, her final words a desperate, "This is a misunderstanding. Call my lawyer." A week later, I received a letter from the Oakwood Estates HOA. Karen had been suspended from her position pending a vote, which resulted in her permanent removal by a unanimous 27-0 decision. She faced a $5,000 fine for the false report and mandatory community service. Neighborhood gossip revealed her real estate firm had put her on leave after clients refused to work with her. When I saw her at the grocery store, her surrogate demeanor was gone. She avoided eye contact, her face flushing as she abandoned her cart and fled. The neighborhood bully's reign had ended, undone by her own actions, and the shock on her face as she hurried away said she still couldn't believe her power had collapsed so completely